What's up everyone, Lion Roar here, and it is time for a Bloodline Heroes of Lithas tier list update for spring of 2024. So I'm going to bring you rankings for all 118 champions. But first, if you want to support this channel, download Gemstone Legends by using the link in the description of this video. Gemstone Legends is a mobile RPG matching game where you collect unique legendary heroes, equipment, and relics and use them to build a team to fight enemies by matching gemstones. Now, I'm telling you guys, this is one of the most balanced, well-developed games that I have ever played. Like, they never have to nerf or rebalance anything, and I think you guys will agree when you start playing. So if you want a free epic hero and free gold, diamonds, and potions worth up to $50, you must use the link in the description. Now, for what you've all been waiting for, the tier list in Bloodline Heroes of Lithas, I'm gonna dive right into it. Let's start out by rehashing how I grade these heroes. Now, I have changed my grading scale a little bit, but I still have S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier. What I have changed is I no longer have a D tier because I think people think of D tier as bad, and it's not necessarily bad. I think it's just more niche. Like, the heroes still have some use, but only in very specific circumstances. And then I do have a Hell No tier. This used to be my F tier. This is basically heroes that are actively harmful to your team, or at best do absolutely nothing. And so it's basically you being outnumbered then because you have a hero that's doing nothing. So before I share with you my thoughts on the brand new heroes, I am going to make some adjustments to the old tier list, which is what you see right here. There have been some changes, mostly with some heroes going down in ranking, but there are some that will go up in ranking. So as I'm looking over the Hell No and niche tier, nobody here really improved all that much. I'm looking at the C tier and I'm tempted to move several of these down just because, well, like Doombringer Male, I would say he's more niche now than anything because basically the only thing he does is he's good at getting you gold in the districts. And I did previously put a number of heroes and champions in this tier for that reason. Doombringer Female, I'm going to say the same thing. You know, she's a little bit better at fighting than the male is, but she's basically only in there for the gold. Male Griffin's basically only in here for the gold. So heroes at this point that I'm only using in districts, I'm moving down. Yvnian Male is actually one I think I'm going to move up a little bit because there's starting to be very specific circumstances in this game where it's beneficial to have his mana reduction, especially on big bosses and things like that. So I do actually really like his ability, but he can't go higher than B because while it's an extremely powerful ability, you do need to put him in the right position to get it to work. Ugrul I still think is a C. She's great for newer players. Female Fulgur is great for newer players. You know, running through here, all of these are really great for newer players or have some kind of purpose. I think Bloom Uncounted Female, I'm tempted to move down, but all of these can be good if you build the right kind of team. I'm not seeing anybody else here I feel like I need to move down. Maybe the Crooked Fins. Yeah, I'm just going to say at this point, Crooked Fins and Askavarj Female, they can come down to niche tier because I'm just not seeing them be used in any particular way that is widespread by any means. Certainly not at the top tiers of play. All right, taking a look at the B tier, I still think Female Trevane fits well here because she's just a powerhouse against bosses. All of these heroes here just do a really good job at what they do, and that's what makes up this tier. And so you do have to find the right synergy for these B tier heroes, but all of the ones that I have listed here, I think I agree with keeping them here. And some of you might think I have Woodscourge a little too high in the B tier, but quite honestly, Woodscourge surprises me every time I use this champion on a team. And she actually deals a ton of damage. And so I can definitely get teams that work with her. And where I really see this come into play is like Sales of Sabers and Luxus tournament and things like that, where your roster can get kind of thin, especially when heroes are getting banned, like in Luxus, and you have to turn to other heroes. And so I'm always surprised at how Wood Scourge does. And I think all of these are right about there on the same tier. Lionstone female. This may be a little controversial, but I'm going to move her down to B tier at this point. I'm not seeing her be used so much at the top tiers of play, but she's obviously still a great hero for newer players. It's just that there tends to be a lot more controlling tanks now, or tanks that do a lot more damage. And there's just a lot of other ways to get speed increase, attack speed increase, which is one of the things she really shined at. But since you can get that in other ways and you can get that right from the beginning without having to wait for her ultimate, she's going to get bumped down. However, I still see people deploying female Lionstone at high rates, especially in the Luxus tournament. And I think she's being deployed at a much higher rate than she should be. She's a little overrated, mainly because of her reputation in the past, which is still good. It's just not better than a lot of what's going on today. Taking a look at the A tier, I'm going to bump Water and Sun female down actually to C tier. She was better when she came out, but she's quickly getting bypassed by a lot of the stuff that's coming out lately. The rest of these all look good here. I think I might move the Thunderlords down to B tier. They're kind of starting to fall into that range of like good, but not like they're not going to be on competitive teams. And that's not to say they can't find a way onto competitive teams. They do have some really cool abilities that mean that they have a place. You're just going to have to work for it. The rest of the A tiers here are ones that just absolutely can be plugged into a team and do a lot of really great work, including both the Elnats, by the way, and Zeiston, who we looked at last time. As far as the S tier, yes, Male Water and Sun is still S tier. Phoenix is still S tier. I think Ho Female is still S tier because she's boring. She's a boring hero. But when I try to take her out of my main comp, it just doesn't do as well. And so to me, that means she's S tier. Galabar female, however, I'm going to bump all the way down to B tier. And that may be controversial, but here's why. In this day and age, in Bloodline Heroes of Lithas, you have to be advancing your game plan. You have to be dealing damage to win. You have to be controlling your opponent. And she does really, really great at that control part and the staying alive part. But she doesn't really advance the goal of the game, which is to kill your opponents. And I've found that on offense, anyway, she can often be the last one standing, but then you basically lose anyway because a tie when you're attacking is just a loss. So, you know, I'm not finding that much use for her in Luxus just to be a defensive player because, like, ties aren't great in Luxus. I'm not finding her to be necessarily super useful except for on defense, but certainly not as an attacker in like Valley of Conquerors and Guild Conquest. And so, like, I feel like she's wasting a spot. She's taking up a spot that I could put a much better attacker on when I'm in those particular formats. You know, maybe with High Vigor, I could still have her on a Team 3, basically, where I just stick her in somewhere on the map when I'm going to be away from the game for a while and know that they're going to have a hard time killing her. So that's what her use is, defense. But that's why she's getting moved all the way down to B tier, because the S and the A tier heroes are the ones that are absolutely advancing your game plan. So that's where we're at with all the old heroes. Now let's take a look at the new heroes. The first one we're going to look at is Male Corbett. Male Corbett I am putting in the S tier. Male Corbett has impressed me and continued to impress me ever since he was released. In fact, I thought he would be good when he was released. He's even better than I thought he was going to be. Just the cumulative effect he has on the battlefield of dealing damage to opponents and being able to fly into the back where a lot of the really difficult to reach and powerful champions tend to be, just makes him an extremely, extremely valuable hero. He's in my main comp. In fact, we're looking at 3 of my 5 main comp heroes here. Phoenix is actually not my main comp anymore, believe it or not. Now the female Corbett, I'm gonna say she's fine, but she just doesn't do what the male Corbett does. She's more of like a straight damage dealer. I'm gonna put her in B tier over here. The Silken Crown male, I think he is also S tier. This guy is just so controlling. And he is just so hard to defeat, and you can put him in that middle slot really well. You can actually put him in the front line pretty well. You can move him around, line him up with heroes that you want to take care of. Not only does he do a lot of really great controlling effects, but he deals a lot of damage too, like a surprising amount of damage. And so that's why he's in the S tier, because you can kind of plug him into almost any synergy, any team, offense, defense, and make him work. The Silken Crown female, I had higher hopes for. However, I think she's mainly a B tier hero. Like, she brings a lot of the great things the male has along, but just not quite good enough. Kivok male, now this is a really interesting one. I'm gonna put in A tier, although I think it's like a low A, almost B, but I'll put him in A tier because there are a lot of uses now where ultimate skills aren't allowed, and that's the main thing that he's got going on, is that the passive and the active skills are so good. The ultimate really only is there to benefit the passive and the active skill that he has. But what's putting him over the top and putting him into A range for me is the trait. The trait Impair is so good. It causes your enemies to take more damage, and it can stack. And you can put that trait on a lot of different heroes. It's great on him. It's great on a lot of other heroes too. So I think this clan gets a whole grade bump just because of the trait. But the skills are pretty good too. Now, the reason they can't be S tier is because, well, to me, the ultimate needs to help advance. Like, when you're in any kind of match where ultimates are being used, these guys aren't as good. So there are some points off for that. Female, she's good too. She typically would be a C for me, but again, because of the trait and some other things she's doing with the passive and the active skill, she finds a lot of use in those formats, which are prevalent right now that you're not allowed to use ultimate skills. Okay, Hakuna Matata. It means no worries for the rest of your days. Hakuna Matata. It's your problem-free AoE. Okay, I know. Let me know in the comments if you want me to, like, never sing again. Hakuna male. I'm gonna say he's A tier. And the reason he's A tier is because he does it all. He does that AoE damage to everybody on the team. He does healing, he does control. I mean, this is a really great hero. And when he came out, I thought, oh no, we've got another male Water and Sun. We do not have another male Water and Sun. He is not male Water and Sun, but he's very, very good. And I thought he was good from the beginning. In fact, I felt like I was the only one like leveling him up and playing him as highly tiered as I was in my teams, because I didn't see anybody else using him. But now I'm starting to see more and more people in Valley of Conquerors and Guild Conquest put him on like their main comps, and they're giving him a lot of vigor. He is very good. He doesn't even need to have a lot of vigor to be good. I'm telling you guys, he's just a great hero. So he can be good on your teams 2 and 3, or for depth. If he has low vigor, with high vigor, absolutely could be main compable. But he is not male Water and Sun. He's great on a team with male Water and Sun, but because he's not male Water and Sun, who's obviously an S tier, why wouldn't you, if you had to choose between them, you would just choose male Water and Sun. But he is really great, so I am going to put him in A tier. The Hakuna female, I just thought she looked really, really good. Too, I thought the male was better, but I think she's been a bit more disappointing than the male, and I'm gonna put her in C. I just unfortunately don't think she does quite enough. Now the Bjorn Krieger male is gonna kick off the first of a series of clans here that I think were disappointing. So you're gonna hear a recurring theme. I'm not sure if it's because the developers didn't want to keep putting out, like, they're wary of power creep, right? So they don't want to keep putting out heroes that are going to just make everything else that we've worked on useless. The player base, rightly so, gets quite a bit antsy and upset at whenever obsolete whenever the heroes you've worked on become obsolete. However, I think they do have a good mechanic on the game and being able to get all your resources back and put them into new heroes. So I don't think that's as big of a concern with this game as with other games. But Bjorn Krieger Male, when he came out, the art made him look like he was going to be this big, bad, powerful hero. And he's just really not. He just doesn't do enough. He's about here C tier. He can do pretty much what the others do here at their level as far as damage and things like that. He's got, you know, the female too. I'm going to put her in C tier. They've got just, you know, a little bit of like control, mostly vanilla damage types of heroes. So not great. I thought they'd be better. Esterier Male and Esterier Female. I unfortunately think I'm gonna put them in the niche tier. They came out and they just don't do it. They just don't do anything. They just except if you get the synergies just right for them. But they don't hurt your team, and they do add a little bit of value. And if you can find the right situation, they're fine. And if like you're a newer player and you happen to get them or have the companion or something like that, you can play with them for a while. Now, Siyun Male, I thought when he came out, I would at least have him in A tier. He's not quite that good. I'm going to put him in B tier. I thought he's actually, he just doesn't deal as much damage as I thought he would deal. He deals quite a bit. He's actually pretty good in PvE. So against the bosses and things, you know, pretty good. But I really thought he was going to find a place in PvP. I really, really thought so. I just could not get, like, my teams always did worse with him in there. Even if it looked like sometimes he was doing better damage, he just, synergy-wise, was causing the team to lose more. So he's not bad, but I think he's a low B. And honestly, I think he's headed for C and possibly niche in the future. But for now, because of where we're at with the levels of heroes and their quality, he can stick around in B tier. Female, I'm gonna put in the C tier. Same kind of reasons. She just doesn't do enough, and she's low C, headed for niche very soon. Kajiki Male, he's very vanilla too. He can hang around in the C tier. But the Kajiki Female, she's actually quite better. She's the one that does all those like orb effects on the battlefield. So she does more. She's still disappointing because I thought when I read her text, I would expect to see at least an A tier hero, and she's just not. But she can act like an A tier hero in the right teams. You just have to build it right. Yin Male, he's kind of vanilla too, as far as like damage and stuff like that goes. But Yin Female, she's pretty good. I'm having a really hard time deciding between A and B. I'm going to stick her in B though. Here's why. PvE. She's a powerhouse. When I take her against raid bosses and I take her against any other kinds of bosses or the events that have bosses and things like that, she always racks up a really great amount of damage. When I put her in PvP where I expected her to also be very good, she just doesn't. And I don't know why. And I'm like watching the matches and I'm looking at the stats, and by all text on her abilities and skills, she should be dealing a lot of damage, and she just isn't. I've got heroes, like, I was actually fortunate enough to be able to put a lot of vigor on her and get her all maxed out and stuff like that. But she just doesn't deal as much damage as other heroes. So in that respect, she's taking up a spot on my PvE or my PvP matches, and I just can't have that. So, you know, for now, she's on like my third team, but I could really switch her out for any number of heroes that I have listed in B and C tier here and probably be okay. You know, looking at this, she's better than all the C tier heroes. She's better than probably some of the B tier heroes here as well. But by the way, the Yin clan is the first clan we got, like the first regular clan we got that you didn't get by summoning. There was an event, which I thought was actually going to be annoying, and like I initially didn't like that, but actually as I did it, I realized it's much better for free-to-play players. Anybody who worked for it could get this clan for free, and the companion, not just the mythics, but the companions, and actually easier than summoning for it, which takes luck. It actually took luck out of it and put work into your hands. I like less luck. I like more control. That's exactly what that event did. So I don't know if you guys agree with that or disagree with that. Let me know in the comments. There were mixed opinions on that event and how to get these heroes, but that is how you get her. All right, let's move on to our Sunbolt next. Sunbolt is a hero I hold close in my heart. I think that Sunbolt's a lot better than they've been given credit for. I'm going to put Sunbolt in the B tier. But I think there's actually a case to be made for it being A tier. When I've played with Sunbolt, this hero just moves around the battlefield, is really well protected from damage, even though it's often in harm's way, and deals a lot of damage. This is a really great hero if you can like kind of bunch teams up together and just create a lot of like chaos in one area. So there's definitely some synergies to be done there. So I'm really impressed with that particular hero. Lupercal, also known as Romulus, it just depends on like what you're looking at. I actually think is A tier. And this one's surprising to me. I actually expected to be similar to a Sunbolt, but does way more damage. Way more damage. And so I do like Lupercal a lot. Of course, Sunbolt and Lupercal, you have to get enough of the shards to be able to create them and have the hybrid heroes to make them. Those are not regular summoning heroes. But I like them both. I've actually been using a lot of them both. They make it into my top 3 teams often. In fact, Lupercal's in my number 2 team right now. Very good heroes. And then we have Aiko. And Aiko is hard to get, but I'm going to place in C tier because I think the ability just hasn't been good enough. And the whales who I've seen go after Aiko, because like this is one you really have to spend money for. And the ones who did that and have her just aren't playing with her in their teams like when I'm in Valley of Conquerors and Guild Conquest. So I quite honestly haven't even really gotten to play against it, and that's just because there's not enough use there. Obviously a pretty good hero if you read the text compared to other ones in the C tier, but outcome data wise, right about there with the rest of them. So this is my update to the tier list. There was a lot here to kind of dive into. I had to pretty quickly move through a lot of these heroes because of how many heroes there are, but feel free to expand on your thoughts in the comments. Let other players know. It helps, build knowledge within our community. And quite honestly, it teaches me too about some of the strategies and things that you're thinking of and things I might have missed with heroes. So if you enjoy videos like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification, and I will catch you in the next one.